Hello, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Thursday night. I'm sorry, I'm late by 5 minutes. I hope this is okay. I'm trying to work on the camera and also the sound. Let me double check. My mouth are open, I'm sorry. Just a second. Can you hear me? Probably. Let me know if you can hear me. I cannot hear myself. Check. Hello, Lily-san. Can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me? Why cannot hear? Okay, I will start like that. I don't know why I cannot hear that. As long as it's okay, I can do that. So let me know if the audio is not that great. I set up the camera, so I bought a new microphone, and then in this area that I'm looking at, it's all red. I should speak softer. That's what the electronic is telling me. But come on, Sashiko. Come on, Sakura. Anyway, no, it's good. It's good that if it's good. Okay, just a second, okay? 日本語こういうことよね。で、just a second, okay? Another camera is here. Where is that? No, not this one. Just a second. I'm so sorry. Huh? I prepared that. Anyway, I will start stitching very soon. I just need to find my there we go. I'll drink something. Please bring something to drink. It's extremely hot. And Sakura is complaining. And I will talk about how the workshop was, how workshop went. This was my first time in the West Coast and to teach. This was my first time in the West Coast to teach. Sorry. And it was a very good experience. So while I am stitching, I will talk about that. I just came back last night, less than 24 hours ago. Right? Yes. I came back last night around 1, not even last night, today, about 1 o'clock. So it's kind of scary. I took a nap and woke up. That's why my voice is like this. So if you have any questions or any request for me to talk about, please let me know. I forgot to explain this. So this is the place where we can stitch together, ask questions together. One of the very fundamental goal I have to teach in teaching Sashiko is to make a place to be. We call it ibasho. It is something for the Japanese people who practice Sashiko. They had a place to be in very, very different, very, very difficult time to survive through in challenging condition with limited resources. They probably had the community like this. And since it is really challenging now to find somebody who likes Sashiko nearby, or to have those community in physical condition, why don't we use the internet to get together? So I try to have the Sashiko place to be, and this is very judgmental free. I will not talk. I will not judge you. I might say something about the others, which I try to not to. But it's anybody can come here, and I'm not gonna say anything if somebody leaves, and that's what I'd like to create. So please bring something to stitch if possible. Doesn't have to be stitching, can be knitting, can be anything to move hand. And if we can spend time together, that'd be great. Okay. Hi, Sakura. Sakura is very needy because I was not here for 5 days. Only 5 days? I don't remember how many days I wasn't there, but because of that, she's really, really needy. Just... Hello, hello. Thank you so much for coming back. I will restart it. Well, not a restart. I just had a 1 week off, and I think I can keep offering that throughout August and September. I have nothing until December, which is good and a bit scary, but it should be good. I have nothing until December, so I will. I should be fine. I should be okay to offer the workshop. Not a workshop. Sashiko Live. I'm so sorry. My brain's completely melted. It's extremely far, especially from where I live. San Francisco and Bay Area was extremely far. I had to fly to the Newark from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Newark to San Francisco is quite far. I wouldn't say it's the same as going to Japan from New York, but it's almost like going to Europe, I guess. I don't know. I have never been to Europe from New York, so I can now, of course, speak on behalf, but that was far. It was nice, very nice place. It was really nice to finally meet the Shibori living legend, Wada Sensei, Yoshiko Wada. I stayed at her house and we had a lot of time to talk about. There was another teacher, another professor, not even professor. Well, she's a professor and teacher, and also very, very famous, almost again another living legend for Chinese textile. Torimaru Sensei, I got her book there too. But anyway, I stayed with them and it was very, very fun to share conversation, opinions. We all speak Japanese, so that was plus. And I shared some of the understanding of Sashiko. There's a new book published this month by the famous Boro collector Nukaga Sensei. What was his first name? I bought it, of course, and I'm waiting to be shipped to the US, but Yoshiko Sensei, the Wada Sensei, the person I stayed with, is the good friend of him, so she got it already. I think she got that book before it was published. Otherwise, it does not make sense that she had it already. Of course, I mean, yeah, the published date was June 22 or something like that. So I was there June 23, June 24. Yes, it does not make sense. So he probably sent it to her before it got actually delivered to the bookstore. Anyway, that can be one interesting book to look at when I get it. Called Boro. I forgot the title. I will look up and I will come back, but it's new book written in Jap. It's not even book to be honest. It's more like a catalog of his collection. And it has both Japanese and English, so I can get it for you, but it tend to be kind of expensive if you buy it through me. I have to pay, a lot of tax and shipping, so make sure that you get it in a nice condition. Buying from Amazon.com, Amazon, well, let me know. I'll do my best. I've heard some good things about getting items from Amazon and from Japan. Amazon.com sometimes ship over sea, but sometimes it's very not a risky, but well, it is risky because it might not arrive on time or damaged. I believe that Amazon, of course, reimburse those things, but plus if you're not a big Amazon fan, which I sometimes have as my friend or my followers, there are some people who think that I hate Amazon. No. I mean, I'm a Prime member. I mean, I cannot live without it at this moment, so I shouldn't hate it. There was one guy who was very upset that I was selling on Amazon. What is your problem? Like, what? It's not your problem. Like, are you gonna pay me that much? I have to make a living at some point. Like, oh, you should sell those things on Amazon. You're contributing to blah, 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 blah. You will probably read a book someday, won't you? I would like to, but I would like to. I met the Sashiko teacher as well in the West Coast. I cannot respect her enough for that. She's very well known Sashiko teacher. She's been teaching Sashiko for more than 30 years. She's probably if I have to refer somebody as the Sashiko artist, I would probably introduce her. She knew me, I didn't know her. But when I decided to offer, she decided to take both classes. One is the core and essence, which is pretty much the everything that I would like to start with. Like, if you are gonna come to me to learn how to ride a bicycle, I want you to learn how to ride a bicycle. And that's the core and essence. Same as the online class. Online class is exactly same as the exactly is a little bit too much, but they're very, very, very almost identical to the core and essence. And I have another workshop called application practice, which is not as important. I wouldn't say not important is not really good way to advertise it, but it's like me taking the student to the bicycle park so that they can enjoy like amusement park with bike, so they can learn they can enjoy bike ride. I cannot take anybody to the bike park without teaching them how to ride a bike. So that's another reason I put the prerequisite to those things. Anyway, I really respect her taking those classes because she doesn't have to, technically speaking. And in my understanding, she's more qualified than anybody to publish a book. But she is not. And that kind of humbleness reminded me of my old days. She's half Japanese. She was born in Japan. She spent some times in Japan in her childhood. So, but again, I would like to publish a book one day, but this might sound a little cheesy, or it might sound a little even creepy for that matter. But what I want is not the fame. Fame doesn't hurt, but I don't want them to misunderstand what I'm sharing. I really strongly understand that people read what they want to read after all. And in my understanding, when I sell the book becomes the content or life of the person who purchased it, so I have no space to say something. So book is very powerful, important, and I'm not saying I'm not going to publish it forever, but I have a priority right now so that I can make sure that I can write a better book. For now, I prioritize the connections, or not even connection, interactions. So Instagram, YouTube, like here, those are more important than like writing something definitive. I'm not that confident in myself that what I'm doing is I am getting more confident every time I teach, but at the same time I'm still afraid of destroying some Japanese culture. So by exchanging those information I can. And also social media and YouTubes are much faster. Publication you have to wait a little bit, and that might be critical in today's case because the culture of Sashiko is changing extremely fast. So let's see. But yeah, I would like to write a book one day. The heat wave is killing me because my AC unit is working. Oh, I'm so sorry for that. I'm very much thinking about getting the AC too for downstairs. Do you see the fan sound? I'm doing the fan plus the humidifier. I gotta buy a washer too. The 10 years old washer, like a washing machine, started making a banging noise whenever we wash it. There was like a strong vibration, like bang, 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 bang. And well, I will try to fix it first. It's probably a suspension rod, or probably suspension. It's very simple mechanic, so by changing the suspension, probably I can fix it. At the same time, changing the 10 years old is really, it's an end of the life cycle washing machine, I think. So I believe it's pretty dirty inside. You don't hear my fan sound because your fan sound is... Well, I try my best to set this microphone. Little bit better. Same stand, same colors, almost same looking, but I believe that it can sort of filter the noise better. The problem is I cannot hear it. I cannot hear that, so that's a little bit of a problem. But as long as you can hear it, that's what this matters. It's all excuses to not to do those things. I would like to, but at the same time, Books are scary, though. I mean, it's good to have it published. That makes people up to the different category of author. Now, when you have a book, that book becomes sort of the idol or like character of that person. That's great. That sounds good, and I would like to try that. I would like to see that. But at the same time, Sashiko and Boros are becoming something else, even without those. Well, Sashiko and Boros they started working by themselves to be something else completely by itself already. That because of somebody's publication, because of somebody's voice. So my goal is not to contribute that, and it's so slow. I mean, it's really slow. Me writing this story every day on Instagram is probably doing better. I don't know. It's faster, but it's very limited. I understand it's not, as strong or significant or powerful as writing a book. I mean, I don't know. It's all, and also I'm the, not English is my second language. That's not a big plus. Well, I see. I'll see. Let's see. I got interviewed while I was staying the West Coast from the Japanese magazine. It's quite big magazine in Japan about quilting. So it's not gonna be a big article, but let's see how it's gonna be in Japan. So yes, the West Coast was very good. It's not hot. That's huge plus. Probably San Francisco was a little hotter, but where I offered the workshop was in Berkeley, nearby UC Berkeley. Around that hill, it's quite chilly for that matter. Actually, it's not like freezing cold, but it was very good. I needed the jacket for that actually. So the climate was plus. The cooking, I mean the Japanese grocery was big plus. We cooked together, and that's why I probably look a little fatter for that matter. It's why I'm a little bigger. I was there only for 5 days, but I look bigger. And many people came from all over the West Coast, from almost Seattle, Portland, Oregon, to Long Beach, what was the state capital of the California? Santa Clara? No. So many. Oops. Anyway, it was very nice to have people in person. I wish I did a little better job to market that, because there were several voices after the workshop or during workshop that they did not know that I was being there. So next time I'll do. I mean, advertisement is kind of, risky. And yeah, Sacramento. Thank you, Sacramento. There were people from Sacramento. What did I say? Not that south though. I think Long Beach was the south. If you were there, if I'm misunderstanding, please let me know. Sacramento. There were a few students from Sacramento. It was very, very fun time, and it's a little different, I guess, from the teaching experience in New York. I cannot tell what is exactly the difference, but it was a little different. Same result though, same result. I'm proud of this. Say the same result. I am very much proud of myself. And I am really, 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 really becoming confident to say that what I teach is quite unique. Oops, sorry. When I started teaching in 2017, my first initial thought was, who wanted to learn this kind of things? It's all like normal, ordinary, like not significant, almost boring. Like, why do you want to learn this one? Like, almost thinking that everybody already know how to do it. And after, in those 5 years, I learned how the other Sashiko teachers in English or in the US teaches. And that's not really the Sashiko I like to teach. That's the sort of around Sashiko that I share on YouTube for free. Well, of course, I mentioned that in the workshop as well, but many people, like, it's like analogy, like many people discussing how to make pizza by putting different toppings, like, oh, jalapeno is great, mushroom is great, and also cheese, like this cheddar cheese should be good, and they are trying to define what is the best combination of topping in pizza. Gorgonzola might be better. I mean, there's no answers. There's no answers, and I respect all of the preference, but nobody pay attention how to make tomato sauce. How their grandmother made their tomato sauce for them and left it there. And what I would like to teach is how to make tomato sauce. You can put any topping you want. You can put any cheese on it without even not much skills. That's easy. So you can do it by yourself. They can do it by themselves doing that. They can cut it, they can put any toppings and they can make mistakes on that too. But you have to be able to make the tomato sauce by yourself in order to enjoy really, really the good pizza. And that might require some, learning. And that's what I'm offering. So if you... I think that's the good analogy. That's actually a good analogy. It is really funny. Like, the person who I really worried about was actually this teacher, West Coast, who studied Sashiko from her family in Japan 30 to 35 years ago, who knows me on my mother's back when I was a very small child. She said that was a very, very, very life-changing experience. Like, well, if she can tell me that, probably I can be more confident, I guess. I want to be able to make... What? Did I? It's really short. So yeah, I will keep doing what I can. If there's any request to teach in somewhere else, I can consider that. Not in fact. At the same time, however, if that's the case that I have to sacrifice my family more than necessary, then I might say no, but I will try my best. Yes, it was a lovely compliment. It's a bit very... It means a lot to me too. And I respect them. There were few Sashiko teachers in the workshop, and I don't know if I can do it. Like, if I put myself in a different, in the same shoes. As much as I said, well, I am willing to do it. In fact, I actually am willing to do it. So if I go back to Japan, I would like to teach. But actually, yeah, I can do that. That's why I'm here. 20 years ago, I couldn't do it. 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't do that. But now I accept it, so I know that I know how much I don't know. So I can do that. But the things I did, it was pretty the same. Sashiko is more than technique. And when I say that, many people try to sort of question me, expecting that I have a very easy answer to answer. Like, Sashiko is more than technique, and they say, well, then what? Well, that then what part requires some learning. It might not that complicated if, that's the same culture. That's why I don't really have a longer workshop with Japanese people. But when we talk about something cross-cultural, that more part can be very, very important, and it takes a lot of time or practice to get it. I don't want them to spend 600 hours to get that, or even 6 years to get that. So my goal is to shorten it as much as I can. 6 hours. That's the time I need. 6 hours. Well, of course, if they can take 2 workshops together, 12 hours. It sounds crazy, but after 12 hours, I believe that I will be somebody special. If you think that I'm somebody special skilled, that's not true. What I do is very insignificant. That's very consistent. What I teach is unique because of the because I'm that was old, because that was old and nobody passed it down because it was not significant. We decided to not to continue because we didn't have to. So what I do is very insignificant but unique because of the insignificance that we experience, which ironically might make it significant. So it's really interesting how history sort of cycles around. Let me know if there's any request to talk about West Sashiko workshop in the West culture. I think I have a lot to say. But I really I think I have a lot to say, but kind of cannot. What is it? What can I tell? So if you listen to this live streaming, you probably know already, but there's no such a thing as just because in teaching something cultural. Just because is good when we share the same expectation, which means that the taking shoes off is one example, but we know that we have to take off our shoes when we visit somebody else in Japan. There's a place to take off shoes called Genkan, and we have to take the shoes off. And that's not even the matter of discussion, personal preference. One has to take off. There's no alternative not to take off the shoes. I mean, unless you arrange it in advance. In that case, people bring the inside shoes, but there's zero case that somebody can getting to the house with the outside shoes. That's expectation. So when we talk about those things in the same culture in Japanese, if they say that, why do we take off our shoes? We can say just because. That's a very good explanation. That's probably, very good way to use the word just because. But when somebody's talking about the foreign culture, just because it's very, very violent. There are stories why we have to take off our shoes in Japan, and we know it already, so we can say just because, but if you're from outside of the culture, I think if you're gonna teach how to take off shoes at the entrance, you gotta explain why too. So if you find somebody teaching Sashiko saying just because, be careful. I mean, they don't know what they don't know. There's no such a thing as just because. Why do you use this thread? Well, just because it's available. That's not it. Why do you use this needle? Well, just because. No such a thing as just because. I'm a bit quiet today because the heat and sleep deprivation is getting to me mostly. Oh yeah, don't worry about it. I'm still sort of jet lagged, and this is a place that I don't request anything. I mean, require anything. I request a lot of things, but I do not require things, so. And it's kind of scary that people teach by saying just because. We have to learn the history to understand the future, right? Well, even to expect the future, we have to understand the history. The farther we can take a look about the past, the further we can look toward the future. It's like a height. When you are a baby, like your height is about, it's analogy, but when you're a baby, your height is about what? 30 centimeters. So if you have a big table in front of you, that's a big obstacle. You will feel very intimidated by the table, because for the baby, that's the biggest things, and the baby doesn't see anything else. And if the baby was surrounded by those big tables, they really feel trapped from the back or sideways or front. You know, it's just probably just coffee table, but in front of the baby, that's a big obstacle. When they become adult, let's say when their height becomes 170 or 100, even 60, those coffee tables of 50 centimeter is nothing. They can either go over it or they can even take it out. So that's the sort of height as the experience of looking things better. And it's not only one way, it can be 360 degree. So the more we can look back, the more we can see things around. So it is very important to learn the history. Like, some people probably think that it's not that important to learn history much. It's just, if they think that it's just technique, of course the history is not that important, and sometimes it's really even waste of time. But when we talk about the culture itself, learning the history not only enrich their teaching or their stitching, but also it will help them to see further what will happen or how significantly impact the culture later on. That's why I'm learning the history of Sashiko. I have been for that, actually. There are so many. Unfortunately, there are not so many. There are some people who neglect that responsibility, and therefore I say that teaching comes with responsibility. Please don't listen to those people who say just because. It is very violent. And I know somebody who did it. Just because. Well, not really. So this heat wave is gonna continue, right? A little bit. Be careful with everybody. Everybody be careful. Well, by the way, the photo that I started with, the background photo, is the photo I took from the Wada Sensei's house. It was very beautiful. I don't really have a dream to, be sort of wealthy to buy such a house. Oh, that'd be great if I can, but it's not my first thing. But I would like to have a studio. The more I see somebody's studio, having a studio must be so nice. I do all of this in the basement, half basement. it can be converted to the bedroom, and it did. I did once before I started teaching Sashiko, but now the bedroom became men cave. Men's cave? Do we say men's cave? Men cave. Men's cave. And also the storage room for what I hoard. Which also called probably men's cave, so. A studio. It does not have to be so big. It can be like what? It can be like 800 feet square total. Maybe. Sashiko is not gonna really require that much space, but nice camera, nice microphone, you know. One day. First, I gotta protect this one first, so I can focus on those small things. That every time I visit somebody, it's like, you know, those people who invite me to their places are somebody who, you know, accomplished something in their field. So they call themselves as an artist, and of course they have a studio, and that's very, very, very Do I have a collection of true vintage Sashiko? If so, do you remember your first find? We have to define what is the true vintage Sashiko, but this is it, right? If you're recording really true, we have to probably go back to like 10,000 years ago, or even before that. Like first? First one is probably that old. I'm just being a little bit, I don't want to say mean, but I know your question. I know your question, and this is the true Sashiko in my understanding, and I understand your question. What was my first? I don't know which one was my first find, but I was surrounded by those things. I did not have the moment in my house that I was not seeing Sashiko. Does it make sense? I probably saw Sashiko before I saw my father. It includes old and new. So found vintage, but we hated borrow, by the way. We despised borrow, so we did not have any borrowed pieces in my house or in my family studio, or store for that matter. But we had a lot of good Sashiko collection. We of course had something to be borrowed back then, but something you imagine as the borrow, we really did not like it. So what was the first? Well, there's a first piece as the family, like the story of family business, family Sashiko. There's of course one piece that it's hanged on the store, but that's not my first. So it's like asking, what is the first pizza you had? Do you remember the first pizza you had in your life? I mean, no, including everything. I have a cloth envy. I'm stitching through several layers of patches on dirty denim. Your Japanese garden allows for better washing. Well, Sharon, you know that. You know better. I mean, you don't know better, but you know as much as I do. And that's your choice for today's stitching, so yes. I sometimes have to feel envy to you too, when you're stitching, you're making a beautiful running stitch. So, well, it happens. It's like, you know, eating. You cannot eat pizza every day. You should eat something you don't like to make better health. I've been stitching this fabric for what? For my life too. Sometimes change it, but so, of course it is the easiest fabric to stitch, and my goal is to stitch and talk. I don't want to spend so much energy in stitching. Then I will be quiet, and that's not gonna be a good live streaming. So it's not a dumb question, but that's. I mean, I'm sorry if I made you apologize. I did not mean. I'm sorry. I did not mean to be that mean, but that's how Sashiko is romanticized in the Western culture because of not you, because of not you, because of those who publish the book, because of they speak up, because of those who say. So, if the question was what is the best Sashiko you've seen, probably I can answer. But we have to define what is the true Sashiko too, so just don't, they're not wrong. Sorry. They're not wrong, but just that's not they have to say that Sashiko is like pizza. It's not like a French restaurant. It's not like memorial things. So if they remember the first pizza they had, that's kind of creepy. I'm sorry to say, that's very creepy. Oh, I remember the first pizza I had when I was 3 or 4. Why? Like, why do you remember that? Like, was it... What? So if somebody can answer that question, they don't know about Sashiko well enough. They already romanticized Sashiko. There's nothing wrong with romanticizing it, but they are not the part of that culture. Why did you despise Boro? The key for Boro is... how do I explain that? They are very, very strong negativity in Boro. And right now the Boro has become very stylish word. But for many people, I know Boro was actually a negative word. As I explained, Boro is the word for just a second, okay. Why it stopped? Just a second. Just a second, okay? I'm sorry. Check. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. So, this, Boro's... Borrow. The word borrow means horse droppings. That's one of the meaning of many words. The first meaning is the tattered or damaged, very, damaged fabric, but several meanings are horse feces or the status of being completely effed. Very badly used or very badly tired or like literally effed. So it's really negative word, and if somebody said that you look like your Boro looks so great, many elder generation takes it as the insult. Like you look like shit when the word like that becomes, even if the word becomes better, that itself is quite negative. And this trend of appreciating Boro is very recent. There are collectors or art dealers who try to sort of push this idea, or promote, not a push, promote this idea and product to the world, and they did a good job. They did a very, very good job. But we have to understand the difference between those 4 categories of professions. And for us, Boro was not something to admire. In fact, Boro was something to even hate, despise. The Sashiko stitching was to make fabric stronger. Boro is the result of neglecting it. We had to mend because our stitching was not good enough. I mean, really, really back in the history, they did fantastic Sashiko, yet they had to make Boro because they used that fabric for entire life. We were professional in Sashiko, and if we sell Boro, which means that we are advertising our Sashiko is not good enough for the usage. So that's why at least many people hated Sashiko for that. In my memory. Now, they didn't really say that they hate it, but I don't remember anybody who liking it or making something to be Boro. So I hope that makes sense. I should bring something to write with, but there are 4 kind of people, right? Like this might be, you might have an objection about it, but in my understanding, there are 4 type of people in profession, in craft, or those culture, or even art. Like, just divide those things. Imagine that there's a division. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one is the collector or dealers who stimulate the market of that market. And they're a researcher, like a scholar. Like Wada Sensei right now in PhD, those people who study those things and then publish it as the record. Sashiko is very difficult to put in the record because many of those are based on the memories. So I am very much looking forward to read Wada Sensei's result. But so the collector, researcher, and then there are 2, those are more like a sort of outsider. I don't want to say outsider, but they look at the culture from the outside, which is very necessary, but they are from little bit of observing it. And of course they can interpret, they can jump in, but there are 2 categories here, which is teacher and practitioner. I am in between here right now, but I used to consider myself here, and my family is, well, the people I know are here. Because the teacher was not really necessary back then. In my memory, there were no division here right now. There were all practitioners and also teachers each other. That defined my Sashiko, and I'm just trying to divide it because it's easy to explain. Unfortunately, right now, this division became very, very, very strong. As the result, this teacher part tend to lean onto the collector as well as the researchers. So instead of having those inside of the culture and outside of the culture, they only exclude the practitioner out and then they observe it from outside. This is very unhealthy unhealthy way to preserve it. Teacher and student should be inside of that culture. I mean, I'm not saying inside is good or outside is bad. This is just the categorization. But now, because Sashiko became so popular and Boro became so romanticized, this teacher now belongs to these outsider, and as the result, things changes more than necessary or even faster than it should be. Does it make sense? That's my understanding of what's going on. That's why, it is difficult for many people to understand why people don't like Boro. But it's not that difficult when we kind of imagine the stories behind it. Do I like borrow? I do, I guess. My mother are enjoying borrow because she's very judgmental free. She does not know. She doesn't really. She's the artist. From my perspective, she's the artist. As the also nightmare. You don't want to have an artist, your mother. Anyway, she enjoys borrow. So yes, I do like the borrow from somebody who I like. So if you make borrow and if you give it to me, that'd be, I would say I like it. Do I want to have a borrow from unknown? Yes, I would try to get it if I can wash it. If that borrow is in a good condition is kind of, figure of speech, but in good condition that I can wash it, then I probably would consider getting it so that I can learn from it. One of the most important thing about the vintage fabric is that it has to be able to wash. Has to. Like there's no exception. There's no exception. Don't use any fabric. I shouldn't order. I will never use the vintage fabric I cannot wash. It's more a spiritual thing, I guess. So if the borrow is not washable, I would not. So if somebody asks me to take those bolo collections from the museum to my house, I will not. If I can sell it to somebody else next day, I may for one night that I might put into the plastic bag and put in the garage, maybe. But if I have to bring it my home and hang it somewhere, I will never do that. Even if that costs like $10,000 or even $100,000, I will never do that because it's too scary or creepy or negatively unhealthy. Negatively unhealthy, it's an okay word to say it. So the vintage fabric is somebody's clothes, right? So we, the Japanese, believe that we carry a lot, we put a lot of nen as the power of somebody's thinking, thoughts in that. So we probably share the same mental psychological barrier. If you are gonna buy some jacket or denim from the Goodwill or secondhand store, you think you make sure that it was washed or make sure that it can be washed. Especially if you're gonna get somebody's underwear, you might want to wash it, or you should be able to check that it was washed. So I don't think that's something very difficult to understand it, but that's the case. By washing it, I believe that sort of negativity can be sort of reset if that's the case. And by adding our own stitches, that sort of the nen in the fabric can be sort of changed, overwritten by us. So that's one way to handle it, but I will never eat anything on borrow pieces. That's psychologically impossible. Don't put any food on the borrow, please. If you feel comfortable doing that, you don't know enough. Please keep reading my stories or listening to this. Borrow. How do you feel about the borrow becoming popular now? Strange. It's very strange. I mean, I don't. It's the kind of again, we have to go back to that. I really have to write it down somewhere. Let me write it down. It's very important to explain what's going on. Let me just get the paper. This will explain everything. That's really interesting concept. I grew up almost exclusively wearing used clothes and almost never got new clothes. So that really interesting me. Yeah, like if that's the case without choice, then my case does not apply to it. So that's how Bor was made. I mean, they did not have choice. That's why I think I have a choice, so I can wash it. I can care those negative feelings. But if I didn't have choice, I wouldn't be caring that much. Yet I would be doing something behind that to help. Sorry, Lily, I kind of skipped several of your comments. I will read that later, if I can. So, this is more like inside way. This is more like outside. Okay. It does not mean that outside is bad and inside is good. Both is very important to preserve the culture, but make sure that there's a little, boundary, like a line in between those things. What is the good analogy? The soccer is a good example. Soccer, I like soccer, and those people who make a lot of comments are outside, like fans, including, like me. I don't play soccer very well, so I'm really, like, Cristiano Ronaldo became so old. Is a very, I loved him, and I still love him, but it's really, those comments are very outside. Those inside people are actually playing soccer, and they probably, I don't want to say they know better than those professional outside of these. I don't know, but that's the outside and inside player, and critique. And those outsider can be like, one is the, of course, critique is one thing, but Sashiko is not critique. I'm sorry if my critique is a little too outside for that, because Sashiko has not become the culture or study yet to make critique, professional critique. So there are two only categories outside, in my understanding. One is the collector. Again, TER or TOR. Collector, TER. Or dealers. Those are the people who, who put thoughts, who carries thoughts into the items. It can be monetary, it can be memories, but those collectors sometimes do it without thinking about the values. But those people carries the culture with the actual items, so it's a very important part of the culture. Another people here is the scholar. I'm so shameful. I got graduated from the university with a bachelor degree, but please, the age I graduated, there was already a good, word. The spell check was the worst thing, best thing ever, and worst thing for my English. Even right now, there's a Grammarly or Google Doc. They correct my grammar or spell automatically, so I don't even learn anything. Anyway, that's the thing. So scholar is very important outsider because they go to the past. They study about the past, and that's very, very. They're more like a future for that. So this line may be the chronological line. This is more like future. This is more like past. But both of them are very important. Both of them are very important, and in between those things, insider can be practitioner. Practitioner and teachers. Well, masters, probably. I don't know. I don't consider there's no masters in Sashiko, but anyway. So inside of this, there are many people who actually stitch and who actually try to pass it down. So I was here before I started teaching, and then I was, I was not 100% sure what I was doing. But there are many. Those are the people who I grew up with. Nobody taught each other. Nobody taught outside of the store. Nobody taught the core and essence outside of the store. So there was not that significant line in between those things, because Japanese culture is based on the apprenticeship. Maybe a little bit, not exactly, but you will learn by looking at it. So it's like here. It's past here, so not here. Before, in the past, Sashiko was more like you do it and learn it. Do and learn. Or even watch and learn. That's how I got it. Nobody taught me how. I had to watch and I had to, nobody's a little too much, but nobody gave me the 6 hours of lecture. I will give it to you in person, or those 3 sections of videos and 1 hours of live session. I will not do that. But anyway, so there were not that inside of this, there were not that much strong difference now. However, because of the trend, and because of those trend is the word, or it might be too much to say, but the money brought by trend, teacher became teacher without going through the practitioner so much. Anybody can be teacher at this moment. So practitioner doesn't mean like 1 or 2, 3 years of this practice is not really the practitioner. That's just hobby. There's a hobby people, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's a hobby people, and that's no problem with that. But those practitioner who does it seriously is probably, if I use my artisan definition, probably 40 to 50 years. So I am not even qualified here, although I consider myself here, but I'm just the baby, or even before the baby, so I don't want to even think about it. But because of the trend, this became very, very strong, division, right? As the result, what happened is that this teacher also became sort of the outsider, and insider is just practitioner. So these teachers are supposed to be able to understand what practitioner would think like, but unfortunately, because of those strong boundaries, these teachers think about the culture on their behalf, more like collect and dealer, because the money is there already. As the result, this romanticizing happened, and the point of this whole story is that it is happening in English, not in Japanese. More accurately, it is happening for those who can speak English, including Japanese. So those dealers and collectors are Japanese as well, but they know the value of Western system. They know the value that the Japanese Sashiko practitioners do not know yet. They will not probably know because they are quite old. So what do I think about the Boro being popular? I'm okay. I'm okay, but I would like everybody to know the stories of this one. So the Sashiko story, this account, and also my Instagram is about here. What do those people would feel like? And interestingly, I am probably, if I'm wrong, if I'm mistaken, please let me know, but I am the first practitioner-ish, because I don't have this much, but I'm ish practitioner who can speak English from my brain, not from the translator. So I'm the first one who can speak up in this powerful language, so-called English. Everybody was translated somewhere. Oh, I mean, don't consider collector or dealers, scholars. Those are a little bit outside, not inside. So those teachers were more like, either they do not speak Japanese or they don't have decades of experience. those people who we consider the legend in Sashiko, they do not speak English. In fact, because they did not have the enough education to not to study English, they were doing Sashiko. I'm a very rare case. I hated Sashiko so much that I can speak English. Well, but that's the case, that the very rare case, and that's why what I say is a little unique from the others. Unfortunately, right now, all the information is from them, right? Scholar is not really doing anything, because in order to be scholar, in order to get even scholarship, you have to know what they're doing. Like Wada Sensei is there in the PhD program with Fulbright. That's a really big deal, and I'm really waiting for her to come up with something. But scholars are a little bit farther from what's going on. And dealers and collectors, their goal is I don't want to say the money, but value, right? Value toward the end product. The process itself is not that important to them. What they can find is more important, sometimes for the money, sometimes for their interest, but they are not gonna change the culture so much because they are focusing on the current outcome. Those who thinks that they know about Sashikos are the key, because they learn from those people who like to they should be learning from them. But there are not that many people who can share those. There should be a big bridge here, or somebody who is breaking those, barrier. But it is extremely difficult because they have to be able to speak Japanese to be here. That's why I keep saying that in order to understand Sashiko, they have to be able to speak Japanese. If your goal is to just practice Sashiko, enjoy Sashiko, you don't have to worry about it, because that's here. That's here. It's not outside or inside. That's more like, let's enjoy it together. If you love eating pizza, you will not change the pizza. If you decided to teach about pizza, you might change the pizza culture. But as long as you're just eating, it's not gonna change it. As long as you're just making it for yourself, it's not gonna change it. When you start teaching, that's gonna be the problem. Anyway, so do I like the borrowed becoming popular? Yes, if the audience, including scholar and collectors, a little farther, because I don't generate money to them. They don't probably care about me neither. But if those scholars and teachers listen to me, or not only me, but those practitioners who do not speak English, who even don't want to share their stories to Japanese people, that's it. That's the thing. Because it is not happening. There was a question on Instagram or even YouTube, like, why is it Sashiko introduced in English is not enough? The question itself is kind of, and there was a nice reply from other people, and that's very nice that they can communicate each other on the Instagram. That question is very, very, very normal, very expected question in the Western culture. But just think a little bit deeper. Like, why do you think it is enough? Like, why do they think that this culture, some foreign culture introduced by somebody non-Japanese? Because I know nobody who are saying that the Sashiko is in English is completed from Japanese people. If you know it, please let me know. I would like to talk to them in Japanese too. So it is very, very important to acknowledge. Acknowledge is the word I keep saying. And I do enjoy the trend. Being popular is good, but I have to really count on you. I really have to trust, or not a trust. I have to really depend on you, count you in, and I really have to depend on you. It really depends on you, and people here. If the world decided to completely ignore those things, then that's another. Wow, was it all visible? If they decided to ignore those things, and if they decided to create their own world by themselves, then that's a. I don't know. I'm part of this now, so I have to be very careful. I was here, but I'm now here, so. And I even get money out of this, so many people don't like me making money by teaching. They say that I'm selling my own culture. Yes, I am, but I have to. So it's really, really depends on the case. I hope this makes sense. This is sort of it could apply to other cultures, but this is how I understand Sashiko as the phenomena of trend or like being popular. So I will probably summarize this one somewhere and make a video about it. Or if you want to cut and paste and make your own videos, that's perfectly fine too. What was I doing? Stitching. Teaching Sashiko. I'm not, judging those people who teach Sashiko. I'm just want them to listen. They don't though, because that's very scary for them. I might deny what they say. They might have to restart everything from scratch. That's why I respect so much for those who came to my workshop in the West Coast. They have their own years of experience and teaching. Yet they came to learn from the beginning. Like some people don't like taking core and essence because it sounds like basic. It's not a basic, it's everything there. So I sincerely respect those people. And if you are teaching Sashiko and watching this with being uncomfortable, you're probably not the one who I am worried about. If you are here listening to this, feeling very, uncomfortable and yet would like to teach, go ahead. Ideally, if you could take my class, that'd be great. But there are not many, but there are quite numbers of people who blocks. There's another group of people who keeps putting me as the arrogant, intimidating, and troublesome, person, and they try to block it, and they try to worship what they want to hear, what they believe in, and those are the group who will probably change the culture significantly, and that's the group that I am sort of against too. I'm not really excluding them, but I just want them to be able to make tomato sauce instead of using the, microwave. Because the most delicious part of the pizza, in my understanding, is tomato sauce. This can be another discussion, but I think, tomato sauce is the key to make the delicious pizza. And for Sashiko, what I teach is probably the most delicious part of Sashiko. And I have not met anybody who knew that secret recipe, which I thought everybody knew back then. So. You are breaking the barrier of being the bridge. I'm trying. I took so long years to realize that there's a bridge and there's a barrier. But this might. I thought that this is the chart, right? This is wrong, but when I started teaching in New York a few years ago, I thought that there's another barrier in the practitioner. I thought that there was a barrier in the practitioner. I thought that in order to be actual one, I thought that they had to be Japanese. I really was wondering. do they have to understand Japanese culture better to be the actual practitioner or not? And in-person workshop in New York changed that, and they can do that in person, right? And then COVID happened, and then online, right? I was very this might not be the case online. I don't know if I can pass it down. They did, so anybody can be there. And some of you here coming back from the online class, you are the living proof that you're getting it. So, I mean, if one can be the actual practitioner, of course the other can. It's the matter of practice, and so I very much appreciate it. You are encouraging me to keep breaking the barrier. Like, if there's like external barrier that one cannot get the core of Sashiko, let's say the language, let's say the cultural expectation, it is very unreasonable to expect others. Me teaching them is just my self-assertion, or it's just for myself. So I was very much worried about it, but since they can get it, then it's what I have to do is just keep offering it. Sorry. Laura, very interesting. Thank you for your commitment to the stories and history and still sharing with us. This is no easy task, as you know. Yes, it's not an easy task, but I don't have a choice. That's the point. I really don't have a choice. But that's my strength too. I probably do better job in terms of making money, but I don't work for money anymore. I used to. I wanted to have a lot of cash, and I worked for money. I now work with money, so there's tons of things I would like to do, and that cost a lot of money. Like publication is one thing, but that's not the priority. So it's difficult, and I can always give up. I can always stop doing that. And of course, I sometimes think about it, but after all, I don't have a choice. Like, for me, it's like same as like you should stop breathing if it's so difficult to breathe. Like, let's say I have asthma, like a difficult. Right now, even I have it, like difficult breathing problems. It's really, really, really painful to breathe in sometimes when you have those like lung issues. And when I was a child, I even felt that it was so difficult that I wanted to end it, but I did not finish it, right? It's so scary to just give up. It's kind of similar to that. So no matter what happens, no matter like this chart, and no matter what the world, society decided that this is not necessary, and it should be those three people to protect the culture of the hobby. If the world decided that three category of people should protect the culture of Sashiko as the hobby, that's one choice of the humanity. That's one way to preserve the culture. But it does not change me. I will be doing the exactly same thing today, tomorrow, and probably 30 years from now. I will be exactly doing the same thing, probably the same patterns, because I promised that I will do the 100 meters. And I am an idiot, but I like, there's no way to give up. There's no way to. Well, the only time it stops is when I die. So, yeah, that's about it. This is. I know. I know many people. I grew up with many people who got a Alzheimer, dementia, and the age is a really difficult things to go through. You don't start. Your vision goes bad. Your hand is start shaking. Your arthritis is getting worse. Many things can happen in the life. There's a one lady, like she was about 95 when I was with her. She cannot hold the glass. Like I probably shared this story somewhere on YouTube. I usually share that in some of the workshop. So she cannot hold the teacup, like teacup, right? Like the let's say this one. It's not cup, but she cannot hold this one because she shakes like this, like ups and down. We cannot make fun of it because it's the age things, and she cannot. There's a word for that. I don't remember that, but there's a word for that. Muscle is very difficult to stabilize it, and that's the age things. And there's a way to live with it. But she was really trying her best to adjust it. It moves like this, right? Interesting. When she holds the needle, it stops. Like phew, phew, phew. That what you have to do with grandma. She was not my grandma, but we call it grandma, like grandma. Everybody elderly grandma. That look at that muscle. Then you don't have to spill the glass. Then she put the needles on the pink cushion, and then it's having those cups, and she's shaking like this and needle. But that's the level. That's the level of the practitioner. So it's not like, oh, I decided not to stitch tomorrow, so bye, I'll give up. That's not the case. I may be the electrician to make a living. I may be a plumber to pay the bill tomorrow, but I will never stop stitching. Keiko used to be she used to be a waiter not so long time ago. In 2014-15, we could not sustain our living in Japan. I was in the US and I was already a stay-at-home dad. But in order to sustain the Sashiko production, it required some, paying the bill. So she was a waiter, part-time waiter, paying that bill. So it's not that long time ago. And purely, I have a Patreon, right? Patreon monthly things. That's the whole reason that she's not working. She's not a good business person, and she's horrible. She's a nightmare. She doesn't think about money very well. She thinks about money when she needs it. So it's a horrible thing, but that Patreon is purely for that. I send it to my mom every month. Thank God the yen is so weak now. I can send more. Well, it's not gonna be good because the inflation is happening there too. Anyway, so that I hope that answered it. What was I talking about? Oh, we have to discuss about it. So what is the most delicious part of the pizza? Dough is also very important. Dough or tomato sauce. But at the same time, yes, I would like to share how to make dough too, from scratch. Don't buy those, pre-made one. Pre-made one is not bad, but the real one is nice too. Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm not really reading every comment. I will read the last one. My intro to psychology professor was talking about how when you do something, then meaning. Sorry, I don't know how to even pronounce that. Myelin shares around your neurons associated with that thing get stronger. So my professor always said whatever you want to be doing in your old age, you have to practice every day now. So when your mind and body started going as you. Yes. So I hope at this moment you can understand that my stitching is not really intentional things. I don't think when I stitch. Like, please think about it. I was not born in the US. When I came to the US for the first time, I was 19. I have a degree from the fourth year college. But that's it. I'm speaking my second language. I don't read well in English. I read a book per day or 2 books per day in Japanese, but it's gonna probably a book per month if I'm lucky. I always run away from the English book. So I am speaking sort of difficult things in English. I have no brain power to the stitching right now. That's why I have to stitch this pattern. If I have to use my brain power even a little bit, I'll be quiet. Like, I would like you to, I want to watch somebody stitching and then do difficult things. That's something I can do. But if I have to use my brain even a little bit, then so what I teach is that, like, I don't teach much about technique in the the live session or Instagram or YouTube, but I hope you can get that sense that what I'm teaching is not the technique only. How to make the accurate stitching is very much secondary. It's the practice of that neural thing. I'll probably be stitching even after I die. And I'm glad that there are so many people like me. I know it's very creepy, but in Japan, in the US, there are many people like me who share the same sort of, I don't want to say disease, but those, addiction, there we go, addiction, not a disease. Hey, one more thread, and I will be gone. Thank you so much for the great questions. And you thank me for the sharing explanation, but I appreciate the question as well about this kind of cultural things. Please don't ask me the technical question, because my answer is going to be, please take my workshop. But the cultural stories, I don't know what the audience, what you don't know. I really don't know what you don't know and what you want to know. And often I explain with assumption that they are on the same page. That's why I create a lot of misunderstanding. But that can be because of the cultural difference, language difference. Regardless, I would like to understand what is the things that can click your understanding. Right? There's always explanation behind those stories and behind those practice. And usually those feelings can be explained by those stories as well. I hope I explained everything. What else I was going to talk about West Coast, but I did not much. If you're watching this as the archive after today, please leave the comment when you have a question, specific questions or request for me to talk about. I read all the book. If you do not get reply, that means that your question is either answered or not, like not listening enough. I don't reply to those questions. Thank you comments. I really appreciate those. Thank you so much for sharing. And I really appreciate those comments, and I'm happy. It becomes happy. But if you do not get an answer to your question comment, that means that your question is already somewhere answered pretty clearly, or not. It's insulting, and it's not really doing anything. So you gotta read or watch that video first more. Like, not insulting. The person who left the comment is reading or listening what they want to listen, so they're not listening what I'm saying or reading what I'm saying, writing, so I don't reply to those things. So like, what is your favorite, like, what is your first Sashiko clothes was actually a good question. I hope you didn't really get offended. I'm sorry, I just started kind of with a joke, but yeah, what is the collection and what first one? Those are not that bad question because I've never talked about those things. But yeah, that pizza analogy will probably make sense. Stitching together and talking together helps us connect and better understanding each other. Yep, that's it. And that's one of the original scenery of Sashiko, so it's not like somebody is being star in Sashiko and worshipping them. So please do not do that. Please, really, I don't really like that. When you see me in person, what you have to do is come and start hugging me. Like, don't really, don't look at me from far and then, oh, he's must be. No. It happens sometimes, and I don't really. That's not my thing. I want a friend. I want friends, not the. How, like, we categorize the people who follow us as followers, but I don't need just the followers. I would like to have a friends. So talking and sharing the information is really important. So that influencer, I don't want to be the influencer. That's the thing. I may influence you, but I don't want to be that kind of categorized one. I'm not. I have no offense. I have no problem with them, but I just don't feel like that. That's why I'm keep stitching. Being famous is a vehicle to do what I want to do. It's not the goal. If I have to be famous. Same as money. Being rich or being wealthy is the vehicle to get to where I want to go. It's not the goal. Just the method. God, when I'm sleepy, I say something very nice. I should be tired all the time like this. I mean, I just came back. My flight landed Harrisburg this time last night, 24 hours ago, and I had to drive almost 2 hours, 100 miles from there to here. So, my brain's completely boiled at this moment. I hope you understand my English. I think I'm speaking English, but I don't know if I'm speaking. I know I'm mumbling, but it's very low. Okay. I wonder if I should show my face because I will probably look like Boro, which means Boro means horse fishes or even poop. So I look like S. I look a shit. So I don't know if it's okay to swear on the YouTube live. Do people swear on the YouTube live? Am I gonna get banned or something? I feel much comfortable saying those words, but I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say those things. I feel more natural by doing those. Okay. So this is the view from the balcony of the place I stayed in Berkeley. It's so beautiful. It's my camera too. See, like I can be a photographer too. I did not edit anything. This one is from the Google Pixel 3A or 4A? 4A pop? 5? I forgot. And where am I? Okay. Yeah, this was a really beautiful place, and I hope that I can visit again there. So if you're living in the West Coast and if you like to take my workshop in person, please contact to the Slow Fiber Studio in the Berkeley. I will try to edit the description area. But right now there's a link to my previous workshop, but you can try to find the. There's nothing. I'm sorry. I will try. Oh yeah, they are. I will put that somewhere. So by contacting them and asking them, or even like putting you to the wait list or something, I may be able to go back there once again. Probably not this year. This year I don't have a in-person workshop scheduled. It'll be quite busy fall. So online class is available, and I reset the numbers of participants who can join the online class every month toward the end of the month. So since this is almost the beginning of the month, there are still spots left. So if that's the case, please join the online class. I can provide the same experience and probably better support for that, because I'll be keeping in touch with over the internet via the online class. What else? Otherwise, I will see you next week, Thursday. Yep. しのぶさん、ちょうど終わる。ありがとう。来てくれて。今日の夜よろしくお願いします。Alright, so I hope you have a great night, and I hope to see you next Thursday. Oh, please click the good button. I'm sorry, there's still I still have a bot or somebody who keeps putting the negative reviews, negative mark, and your good or positive good button will help me to keep this account healthy. I will not stop doing no matter what, but this, if the YouTube stopped me doing that, that's another story. So if you could put the good button, that'd be great. All right, good night. Thank you so much.